pursuit in the North Hills area. It started there, now in Sylmar. What we know is there is a man with a gun in a black Kia vehicle, and the individuals involved are suspected of robbery. And as we said, they are armed, at least it's believed to be.
Yeah, at this point, not a lot of traffic on the freeways. So this is a chase where the driver is able to just kind of go as far as they want to go, heading northbound. We know eventually this would go through Santa Clarita and then up into the Grapevine. You can see the black and white right behind them, and not really many other vehicles on the road at this hour.
Yeah, we do have retired LAPD pilot Dave Avalo here with us. Dave, you are joined by Leslie Marin and Christine Lazar. What can you tell us? What are you hearing about this? We're hearing armed and possible robbery suspects.
Hello, Leslie, Christine. Yeah, I'm getting the same thing. The only thing I don't have is the number of suspects that are in there, other than they do have verified that it is a robbery suspect with a weapon. The only thing they can do right now is just maintain this, pursuing the vehicle. Now, LAPD has started this about 10:20, so it's been going a while. So we're going to see what's going to happen with this. I'm still trying to get any more information, like where this happened and such, but I haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah, and we know, at this hour, obviously there's not that LA rush hour traffic or really any traffic to speak of. And that I-5 Freeway goes all the way through the Grapevine, up through the state. So it's not as though this person's going to run out of space. How do, how does the CHP, how does law enforcement handle something like this where, this person seemingly could drive for a very long time?
Well, as we know, with the CHP, they own the whole state. So what they'll do is they'll just do what they call a handoff. It'll go from LA, and then it'll go to the next station further north, and they'll just keep handing it off until they finally get the suspect in custody. They give up, or maybe the vehicle runs out of gas. I'm not real sure. This is a Kia, so they're pretty economical when it comes to fuel. But what they'll do is they'll stay with it about that long, especially, like you said, it's bad. Any pursuit's a bad pursuit, but this is on the freeway. It's wide open. The bad thing is the vehicle is black, and they do have their lights off, so they're blacked out.
Yeah, and that can be dangerous.
Extremely dangerous,
exactly.
Especially because, as you noticed, the driver now on the 14 north headed, of course, this then brings you to the Palmdale, Lancaster area, but very dark. If you've ever driven on the 14 at night, these roads can get dark, which is hard to make out this dark vehicle, especially because they do not have their lights on. Luckily, they're using
their blinker.
Yeah, their blinker here, which is helping other drivers know that this person is, not really following the rules of the road. And obviously you have the black and whites behind them there with their lights on. But it does become a very dangerous situation, especially because we don't know how many people are in that car and just how armed they are. We do know potential robbery suspects. We do believe they were armed. And that does make it a very dangerous situation, right, Dave, for LAPD. Oh, take a look. Does it look like, is it just me, or did it look like sparks?
I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Oh, is it just the blinkers reflecting from the roadway there?
But let me ask you, right now we can see lots of cars next to him, and of course there's always trucks on these routes because they're traveling through California. But if this car does get to a spot that's fairly desolate, there's not other cars around, would that be a point where you'd see CHP, potentially approach the car and try to do a pit maneuver or something to get it to slow, or would that not happen at these high of speeds?
Yeah, of course it depends on the speeds, but with CHP you really can't tell because they are pretty aggressive when it comes to a pit maneuver. That's why they're staying so close to them. We don't know really how many suspects are in there, so if they decide to do a pit maneuver, they're going to need at least 3 black and whites there. One will negotiate the pit, the second one will come in and try to block it in. The third one will come in as a backup. So, that's what they'll need. But it looks like as of right now, I'm not sure how many units are on this pursuit. I think there,
At least
I know,
two.
Of course, there's one. Exactly. I was going to say, I think they're pretty sure there's two of them. But yeah, they'll just maintain this speed here and just keep following them, notifying the divisions up north ahead of them that here we come with this pursuit, so they'll be prepared for them.
Yeah, definitely. And that is always the key when they stay on these freeways, right? CHP is able to let officers know ahead of time, hey, we're coming down to your area, possibly Palmdale, Lancaster, whatever it may be here. But take a look at just how dark it is on this roadway in the 14 right now. It's so hard to even make out the vehicle that police are pursuing at some points because this driver, again, does not have their lights on. Looking at the speeds here, sometimes I'll see our speedometer shoot up to 120 and then it goes back down. So you can see them passing plenty of cars though. So you know they're definitely hitting those speeds quite fast down the 14 right now. Again, this person, at least we know one person in there, we're thinking multiple, wanted for armed robbery.
And potentially armed. We're hearing that the person is armed. And so, that's really too, when you have someone who maybe you're pursuing because you think it's a stolen car, with something like this, you're assuming this is someone who's armed and dangerous. So, Dave, we talked about this before, how they kind of have to weigh that risk, the risk to public safety by chasing a vehicle that might be driving really fast next to these drivers. But then also if you have someone who's armed and then they go on to commit another crime and hurt someone, they don't want that to happen either.
No, that's you're talking about the factors to be considered. There's plenty of them. The public safety would be number one, of course. The nature of the offense, we've got an armed 211 suspect, a robbery suspect. So you think about officer safety would be the next concern. So you want to make sure that you got enough black and whites for backup, air support to see if you can get an air unit up there. Number of suspects, speed, all that sort of stuff comes into play. So, we can't even talk about pit maneuvers. We can't talk about that because two reasons. It's too fast and there's a weapon involved. Usually you try not to negotiate or implement a pit.
Yeah, and we're hearing that our chopper is going to have to pull back soon because there's fog. So that might be also a problem for the law enforcement helicopter as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. When you're up in that helicopter, when you get out to the desert and it's completely black, it's what we would refer to as instrument type flying. So you'd have to fly off the gauges, which of course you're not going to do. You don't do that. It's a misnomer about being instrument qualified. Has nothing to do with being on a pursuit or anything like that. So, yeah, fuel would be the other thing that they would be concerned about, but especially fog, then of course. So the ground units will stay with it, though.
Yeah, and that's what's really going to help in this pursuit, right, Dave? I mean, you being a retired LAPD chopper pilot, in these conditions, the safety comes first, because normally we would see those that chopper overhead here. Yeah,
usually they'd have it lit up, so I'm not sure what's going on with that, but unless they don't have an air unit that has enough fuel to follow this all the way up north. So they may just go ahead and just pull off on that reason. But I'm not really sure why we don't have one or CHP helicopters not up, and I don't think they're up at this time.
And it is interesting that he chose the 14. Again, I'm assuming the suspect a male, but that they chose the 14 versus the 5 going into the high desert versus, up through California, which you've talked about that too. They might have a reason to go that way. They might be familiar with that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we've seen before, they usually like to hang out. They usually like to take off to places that they're familiar with. And we've seen them before where this guy here or this, and you're right, we don't know if it's a male or female. I haven't verified that. But we've seen it before where all of a sudden they start feeling uncomfortable. They get off the freeway, do a 180, and start heading back south towards L.A. This suspect thus far doesn't seem that he's worried about that.
Dave Avila, thank you so much. As Christine mentioned, our chopper, SkyCal, has to pull off because of weather conditions just being simply too dangerous for them to drive. We're hearing there's going to be fog that's rolling in here, Christine.
Yeah.
But again, this very dangerous pursuit of a armed robbery. At least we know one suspect.
Yeah, and possibly armed. Dave Avila, thanks so much for always giving us such great wisdom on things like this. And we will continue to follow this and bring you any updates as we get them throughout the newscast.